Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. It is done. We have done it. We got there in the end. Hello. Hi, Facebook. Hello, Facebook friends. I hope you guys are having a beautiful Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. I am joined by my lovely sister, my older sister, Sevni Kuchukarslan. Today, we're going to be talking about what her home buying process looked like and what she'd wish she had known before she bought the home, what she wishes to other people would know, and ultimately if she's happy with the decision process and ultimately the process itself, because it's a nerve-wracking process and sometimes it can feel like, oh, am I going to have buyer's remorse. It's also the largest purchase anybody will ever do in their life, and it's something to take into consideration. And answering all these questions will hopefully help whoever's on the other end of this lens decide to buy a home or not, and if they do decide to do it, how to mitigate a buyer's remorse. But hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi. Good, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. This is so awkward because we were talking for half an hour before we ever did this, and now we're like saying hi to each other again. Okay, so I'm gonna hop right into it. When did you buy your place?
So we bought our place in July of 2018, so 2 years ago, almost to the date, just about a week short of that. Well, when escrow closed at least.
Hmm.
And yeah, 2 years ago in 2018.
How much did you pay for it?
We paid 265.
265. And then how much did you put down?
We put down about 15,000, so we were roughly around 250
250. Okay,
of a
so
loan.
to contextualize what putting down means is that she came with hard cash. It wasn't something on a credit card. It wasn't something from the bank that was loaning to them. It was cash in the bank being like, this is how much we're putting down towards the principal of the home. And you do have to have some sort of piggy bank nest egg going there in order to begin the home buying process, unless you have a specific loan that is geared towards not having that. And we could talk more about that later. But I'm going to ask the big question right at the very top. What's the very first thing you would tell someone that is about to begin the home buying process? Like day one, they're like, you know what? I no longer want to rent. Renting sucks, but I don't know where to start. What's the advice that you would give them?
So we were essentially, Peter and I, my husband now, at the time we were boyfriend and girlfriend, in that place in about November of 2017, where we were like, okay, I know we're getting to that point in our relationship where we want to kind of start moving on to the next level. We just didn't know where we were. I didn't want to rent, and neither of us wanted to live with either of our parents. So then
That's fair. Yeah.
that then it becomes okay. The next option is to buy something, and we knew we weren't necessarily ready, but we wanted to prime ourselves up for that. So the very first thing is going to be to talk to somebody that can get you that loan. So mortgage company or banker. We did a bank specifically, and we went in. They're like, this is what you need to bring, which was our work history and paychecks for like 2 months or something like that. I think our W-2, our taxes for the previous 2 years were involved as well. I can't remember exactly, but we walked in and we're like, okay, tell us what we need to do, what we need to set up so that we are in a position to buy in the next coming year or so. And as we were talking to them, they're like, actually, you're pretty much ready right now. They approved us for, I think it was 300,000. And we walked out with a pre-approval letter. And
What bank did you use?
we used Chase.
And
Well,
we
we got pre-approved by Chase.
got pre-approved with Chase. Who did you end up going with?
We went with a mortgage company, Home Path Lending,
Cool.
recommended by our realtor.
Right on. Okay, yeah. So just so you guys know, the pre-approval that you get doesn't actually need to be what the loan goes through. If it turns out that there's another company that provides a better mortgage rate, better terms, you can 100% switch gears as long as it's not too late in the process. So you can go get your pre-approval letter from your local union, your local bank, and then be like, you know what, this isn't working for me. There's another interest rate by another company that's working better for us. You can 100% do that. And I actually highly recommend shopping around. I have 3 names of mortgage loan originators that I recommend. I always recommend talking to them and talking to their bank. But anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Steph.
No, that's okay. So that's the very first thing that has to be done. You can talk to as many realtors as you want, but at the end of the day, you can't move forward in putting in an offer in the house until you have that pre-approval letter.
Yeah, especially in California where the prices are where they're at and it's so competitive. If you come in without a pre-approval letter, your offer likely will be skimmed over and thrown in the trash, frankly. Um, but let me ask you a little bit more about your property itself. You bought in 2018. You got pre-approved in November 2017. How big's your place? What can you tell us? How many bedrooms? How many baths?
So 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. It is a condo on the second floor of a 2-floor um,
Building.
building, and we have a balcony. It's a little under 700 feet, it's like 650, something like that. And it's just myself and my husband. So it's just 2 people living here. So it's
Two
basically,
cats.
and 2 cats. They might make some approves. They're running around. I could hear them. Um, it's a good size for us, and definitely not what we had started off looking for.
What do you
But
mean? What did you
so
start looking for?
I was dead set on 2 bedroom place. I figured we'd probably end up in a condo or townhome of some kind. I didn't think we'd be able to get into a house. Um, but I was like, I don't want to. I didn't even want to fancy a 2 bedroom, something that wasn't a 2 bedroom, and ideally 2 bathrooms, of course. But as we walked through the process, everything that was a 2 bedroom, um, in our price range. Oh, I think another thing that we really wanted was a garage, which we also didn't get, but we got a carport. When we were looking, we saw that we were in that frame of mind, and this over and over again, the location just proved to not be an ideal location, either because of safety or because of the houses around us didn't look nice, or the upkeep wasn't nice, or the distance of where our places of work were. It was
So it,
going.
so it sounds like losing the things that were important to you kind of made sense in the end, largely because of safety, distance, and ultimately you ended up in a place that you're happy with. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things we can talk about more later is, um, if you're gonna if you're gonna settle on something, don't settle on location, just because um, it becomes so important to your mental health, and how comfortable you are in the place that you live,
Yeah.
that I would rather have taken what obviously if we did because we bought the place, but if we had found this exact unit, what it looks like inside the walls, in a place that I did not feel safe, I would not have been happy. Or if the place was not upkept well, I would not have been happy.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's huge, guys. Something that she mentioned was, and something I like to tell my clients is, um, a place is great, but you really want to fall in love with the location, because that is, you can change the inside, you can even change the outdoors to a degree. However, you cannot like pick your place up and move unless it's, that type of house. But okay, so what's your monthly mortgage look like? How much are you paying a month out of pocket?
So we have a mortgage, we have a PMI, and we have an HOA. So our
Okay.
mortgage is going to be, because our mortgage includes our PMI, it's going to be 1865 or so a month. So
Okay.
$1,865 a month. And then we pay, in addition, HOA on top of that, which is $313 a month. And then plus the utilities of the location. We actually only have one, and it's our electrical, because the location that we chose pays for gas, water, trash, um, gas, water, yeah.
Okay, and that's your HOA, right?
That's part of the HOA. So they not only do all the maintenance, we have 3 pools, 4 barbecues, a picnic area, and a lot of green space. And the HOA, oh, and laundry units. We have like 3 laundry units because there's no laundry inside of our unit.
Yeah.
But it's a mini laundromat, and they daily maintenance on the laundromats, every other day maintenance on the barbecues. I see them over there cleaning, and weekly on the pool because I see them there cleaning. I was right
Cool.
outside, so
Yeah. So
they
something I
take
want to talk
care of a
about a
lot.
little bit is, so HOA stands for Homeowners Association. Typically, if you're within the budget that Stephanie was in, you're going to land yourself in an HOA, whether it be a condo or a townhouse. And what the HOA does is typically what they do is they take care of the exterior of the homes and the buildings. So like Stephanie said, they take care of the pool, they take care of the barbecue areas, they take care of the lawn, the bushes, trees, all that jazz. So that's something that you actually don't need to. Yeah, go ahead.
They also are doing right now maintenance on the buildings. They're repainting everything, and they'll like pressure wash everything. So it's everything on the outside gets taken care of. You don't have to basically worry about that.
Great. So yeah, so she doesn't pay for any like lawn stuff. She doesn't have to pay somebody to come mow her lawn or anything like that, which is great. I do want to say not every HOA is created equal. There are some HOAs that are god awful, and hopefully you catch that before it's too late. And also just recognize that 70 said, how much did you say you pay for your HOA?
313.
313. Okay, so that's not a small number, but it's just something that you need to come to terms with if you end up in a HOA regulated home.
I mean, if you think about it, because you might also, if you end up in a place that's not HOA regulated, you might have to pay the garbage removal company. You might have to pay the gas and the water, which was something we don't pay. So, and in addition to that, any kind of landscaping that you might want to pay somebody else to do, or if you buy a pool, something that maintenance that you might have to pay or do yourself. So it all comes at costs and benefits. Again, like what Greg said, HOAs and the reputation of the HOAs is important because there are some really bad HOAs out there.
Yeah.
And as of right now, our HOA has been really good.
Great. You also mentioned PMI, which stands for private mortgage insurance. Can you tell us a little bit of what that is? If you can, if not, I can hop in.
Sure. So PMI is going to be if you don't have 20%, which is a traditional mortgage down payment, 20% down payment, then a third party company is going to basically guarantee your loan to the bank, but you're going to pay them. So let's say your mortgage company is Chase. Let's just throw them out there just because we've already mentioned them. And they're going to finance 85% of your property, or 85%. Then 5% of that is not yours. It's not 20%. So that third company is going that 5% in case you default on your loan, in case you decide to sell and you don't sell for the property amount. They're going to pay the bank back for the difference in what you as a person owning the property can pay the bank back. So it's basically rent on your mortgage.
Yeah. And PMI doesn't last forever. Typically you can refinance once you hit 20%. So let's just say your property appraises and you now have 20% equity in your property. And what that means is now you own 20% of the home. So let's just say that the home was $100,000. You now are effectively clear for $20,000. You can refinance, get rid of that PMI, and you're on your way. And how much did you say you pay for PMI?
It's roughly around 280.
280. Okay. And then actually what's kind of exciting is you guys just are about to get rid of PMI or are very, very close to getting rid of PMI.
Very close. We were financing. So that's one of the ways to get rid of PMI. The other way is to pay to that 20% mark of your down payment. So if you end up paying 20% of your loan to the actual principal of the mortgage, then the PMI will drop off automatically. There's another third way where your house ends up going up so much in value that what you owe is less than the 20% of the property appraisal, then that the PMI will also fall off. But we are trying to refinance so that our PMI falls off without the 20% because we're going to be able to put in a little bit more. And you guys are also good.
You're also going to get a better rate, right? Like your current rate is 4 point what?
4.8.
And so it's really high. To what?
3.1.
Yeah. So what's really great about owning your own place is you can kind of play with it a lot more. You can also pull money out of your own place, but that's a whole other conversation and we won't get into that. But what Stephanie's essentially doing is the rate that she'd been paying for her home, which was 4.8 over the course of 30 years, she's slamming all the way down to 3.1. And that's quite a lot of money, especially considering a loan the size of that she's getting or any loan that you would be getting for your home.
Yeah, just to talk about what the difference is, we're paying $1,865 or so for our home mortgage. Our new mortgage is going to be roughly around $1,045. So it definitely, getting rid of the PMI and changing that interest rate is definitely going to make a huge impact in our monthly mortgage bill.
Yeah. And it just means that you have a little bit more cash flow. And right now we all know that cash is kind of king.
Cash is king.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about what you and Peter, your husband, do for work. Because I don't want it to seem like, oh, okay, you guys are doctors. So that means you guys are rolling in it. It was really easy for you guys. I really want to talk about what your guys' work history looks like. So when you bought a place, what were you and Peter doing?
So Peter has been employed by Wilson Art. It's a warehouse company. He is a warehouse worker. Um, it's important to note that he is a great worker, a hard worker, but he does not have a college education. So he graduated from high school, did a few things, and then ended up as a warehouse worker. In 2017, I graduated from college with my bachelor's in communications and was working part-time at a school district, and then had in 2018 gotten hired by Disney. So in early 2018, before we actually bought the property, I was working part-time at Disney, as a hotel guest service assistant. So basically a clerk. When you walk into the hotel and get checked in, that's what I do.
Great. And cool. Okay. So basically, you were working part time. You had just graduated school. Your non-college educated husband was working in a warehouse, and you guys were able to get a place, right?
Yes.
So what set you guys up for success? What separated you guys from the rest of the pack?
So I think we were very focused in what we wanted to do, in terms of what our future was going to look like. We knew we wanted to, like I said, we weren't even engaged at the time when we got our pre-approval. He was just my boyfriend at the time. But we knew we wanted that next step. We just didn't know how long it was going to take us to get there. When we had a happy surprise come out of that meeting. So we did well there. Work history for him and the fact that I was in college full time was beneficial for me in terms of proving that we were, I guess, responsible adults.
Mm-hmm.
Showing that we aren't just wandering through life and just not doing anything. Also having money in the bank. We didn't have the 20%. We had about, I think we had the, what is that?
5%?
5%. We had about 5% combined. So he had some and I had some, and it was in the bank, not coming out of the bank. So we weren't like putting money in, taking it out, and then putting it back in. It was just sitting there for, I think, like 3 months or so, something like that.
Yeah. I think it's important.
Longer than that, but
Yeah, it's important to note, guys, that in California, 20% of a property is a lot, especially if you're going for more than a one-bedroom condo. It's not uncommon. In fact, it's more common to put 5 to 10% down. It's a huge common misconception. Imagine like trying to buy a house in Los Angeles. Your 20% would be $120,000, and that's not something that's quite feasible. So after the '08 crisis, it became a lot more common to do like about 5 to 10%. Go ahead,
and
Steph.
actually I wanted to add something because I totally just remembered that my pre-approval letter was based on a 3% down payment, but what we ended up going with was a 5% down payment with our actual final purchase of the property. So definitely there are options out there. A lot of banks have programs for lower down payments with the, I guess, consequence or benefit of having to pay a PMI.
Yeah. And actually, there's another Facebook talk like this one on my Facebook page that I did with Jonathan Taylor. And we talk about a program that does just that, where you can buy a property with zero to no money down, with zero closing costs, and it gets wrapped up to the price of the loan. So let's talk a little bit about the realtor that you worked with. It's important to note that at the time that Stephanie was buying a place, I was not a realtor at the time, or else I'd like to think that she'd use me. But yeah, so I wasn't a realtor. She went with someone else. And tell us a little bit about how that experience was, please.
So how I ended up finding my realtor is actually going to an open house just to see what was there, with my mom. And he approached us, was telling us about the property and just kind of inquired. And we're just like, well, I'm not really ready, but I'm just in the future might be. So what he did was say, if you're not ready, let me tell you what to expect of the home buying process, and literally sat us down after the open house on a different date and went through every step of the home buying process and what we were going to need to do. And that's how I ended up choosing him, because I know realtors in real life. I'm close friends with realtors in real life. I have family friends who are realtors in real life. And I think one of the most important things is not only did I feel comfortable. I had to feel comfortable with the realtor, because you're going to have to say, I didn't like this. You're going to have to say, no, absolutely not. And you're going to have to feel like you can come and ask them what feels like to you stupid questions, because they're going to have to come up with a solution, because I couldn't do it. He walked me through the entire thing. His name is Hani, great realtor, loved him. And I had trust and comfortableness with him. So it's not just enough that you trust a person to be a realtor, but you have to feel comfortable. You have to feel comfortable to feel silly. You have to feel comfortable to reject something. And it might feel a little bit personal if you're going with somebody that you intrinsically know.
Cool. And then were you happy with the amount that you brought to the closing table? Did you wish you had more in the piggy bank? Did you wish you had gone in with 20%, or are you happy with doing the 5%?
In the end, because what I ended up with, I am happy because I ended up with the property. I think getting to the 20% would have taken just too long. And we would have ended up having to rent. It's just something I really, really wanted to avoid for just personal reasons. I just didn't want to rent. And having somebody tell you right now you can buy a house is really hard to say no to if you don't have that 20%. It's just really hard to say no to. And so I don't regret it. And I am very happy that we bought the property that we did. Granted, I wish we weren't paying PMI, but I also understand why it's necessary.
And you're also getting out of it not even 2 years, a full 2 years after you bought the property,
and
which is huge.
Yes, it's huge. And I don't think we would have been able to save the 20% in the 2 years that we did, because something always comes up. You want to buy a car, you want to, your money ends up going on a vacation or something, and the money just doesn't stay in the bank. It's really difficult once it starts building up. You suddenly have 10,000, then you have 20,000. We would have had to have, let's see, we bought 265. We would have had to have close to $40,000 in the bank just sitting there.
Yeah. Which is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
It's an insane amount of money that now we have now basically done, but
it's an equity.
While owning the property, not renting and not, doing something else with the money. We still would have, at some point we would have gotten the $40,000, but it might have been 4 or 5 years down the line because we would have gotten distracted. Sure. Whereas now we own it, and yes, we paid the PMI, but that money is now in our property and not somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think it's important to notice that it's not just that Stephanie was putting money into the house and then she accumulated that money. The house is now appraised enough so that she hits that 20% threshold. I think Stephanie and I, we sat down one day and we ran over the numbers of her place, and she bought it at 265, right?
Yes.
And then
our loan was for 250. That's part of the important part.
Right. And then when I ran the house and I did a comparative market analysis in which I look at all the houses in the area, what they've sold for in the last 3 months, and just finagle here and there, I actually, if somebody were to sell it today, it would be close to 487, around there.
No.
What do we say? Oh, no, sorry, 287, not 487. That'd be great.
That would be fantastic. I'd sell it right
now. Yeah, 287, excuse me. And that's pretty great because Stephanie, other than like paying her mortgage monthly, like the house made money itself.
It did.
Cool. And then there's a pretty cool story, not cool story, but there's something that happened to you while you were in the escrow process. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and take it?
So there is obviously a lot involved in buying a house. It takes a month, unless you schedule a different type of time frame, but roughly it takes about a month. And you have your deposit, but it gets broken up into 2 chunks that you hand over to the escrow company. The first one is your earnest money deposit, which is basically saying, yes, I am serious about this. I really want this house. And while we're going through the whole process, I'm letting you know, here's some money. Don't sell it to anybody else.
Yeah.
And then
it's like putting a security deposit in, kind of.
Basically. And then you go through the whole process, and then at the very end, you're like, okay, now we're almost done. We're almost about to sign over the deed and the paperwork and the keys, and here's the last chunk of money. So that's where that came important, because we had done a wire transfer for the first part. So we were already comfortable doing a wire transfer. It's not really comfortable, but understood that there was a wire transfer involved. And then we got to the second wire transfer, and I got an email. And the email said, "Did you get the instructions for the wire transfer?" And I responded with, "No, I did not." And it looked in the email like it had come from the escrow company to me. The from part of the email. And so I responded, "No, I hadn't." And then they sent back, "Here you go, send it to here." And it was exactly like the first wire deposit. It had the wire transfer instructions, where to send it, how much to send it, and you take that to where your money is held, and then they are going to wire transfer to that address that's on the paperwork. And I wasn't doing it at the time because I was working. So Pete was going to handle that wire transfer deposit. So I had been forwarding him all the the related paperwork. And then later on in the day, while I was at work, I got another set of instructions for a wire transfer, and I thought it was part of that email. And I forwarded that to Peter so he could call the bank and put the wire transfer in and get it all taken care of. And then I get a call from Pete, and he says, "There's two different amounts on these wire transfer deposit instructions." And I was like, "What, doesn't make any sense?" Not that calmly, but definitely started saying, "This doesn't make sense. I don't understand." And then looking a little bit closer to it, the instructions on the wire transfers, both of them were slightly different. The addresses were different. At that point, I just thought somebody at the escrow company had made a mistake. I emailed anybody who had even touched our process. So my realtor, my mortgage broker, my escrow, anybody from the escrow staff that had reached out to me, I emailed them all saying, "I got 2 sets of instructions. You guys don't know what you're doing. Fix this, and I'm not sending money until you do." I then get an email back from my escrow company, and actually my escrow company this time, saying, "Don't send any money. One of those is fraudulent." Somebody had figured out we were buying a house, which is actually something I found out open to the public. Anybody can look up what houses are being sold and who's it being sold by and who is buying. And you use your email for everything. So I don't know where they got my email from, but they figured it out, and they sent me an instruction saying, "Hey, this is my mortgage, this is my escrow company. Send us some money." And had it not been for Peter, we would have sent them close to $15,000, and that money would have disappeared immediately before the end of the day, before the end of the hour, probably.
It probably would have been done within a few minutes. Yeah. So basically, what would have happened, guys, is that she would have been sent the money, and it would have seemed like a totally legit. It probably would have been to a legit bank and everything. And then as soon as that money lands in that bank account, it's rerouted to
Something else.
somewhere else. And it's actually something that's really unfortunate, but it's on the rise, and it's something to be super careful of. I know with my last clients, I was like hard on making sure that they were like, make sure you're talking to the escrow. And then what was cool is like they let me know that their bank was also really great about it. Is like when they went to go transfer, that bank was like, "Call the escrow right now. We're gonna talk on the phone with them, and we're gonna make sure everything's all good." It is something that's on the rise, something to be careful of. It's just as long as you're vigilant about it, you're good to go. But it is dangerous, and it's super, super scary.
Yeah, because if they would have taken that money, the purchase of the property would have fallen. Say hi to my cats, guys.
Hi, kitty.
Because we don't have another extra $15,000. Everything that we had was going into the house. If we had an extra $15,000, we would have put it towards the mortgage. We would have put it as a 10% down payment instead of a 5%. So it's definitely something everybody needs to be super mindful. Whatever makes you most comfortable is what you need to do for that. And if anything sounds or feels sketchy, it probably is, and you should double check.
Yeah, if your spidey senses are tingling, trust that.
Definitely.
So we're coming up on around half an hour, and I'd like to start wrapping up. However, I want to go into like a quick little section about what you think people should know right before buying a place. What, like, last little thoughts, little tidbits. What do you got for the people?
Just be ready to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of people, a lot of paperwork that happens with the process. You have to just kind of be ready to, and that's part of what's important about having a really great realtor is that it's going to be important for them to walk you through it, because there's no way for you to do it all on your own. There's no way for you to stay on top of everything. You have your realtor, their realtor, your bank or mortgage company, their realtor. I think I said that, the escrow and their staff, any appraisals that person needs to come out, any inspectors, and there's multiple kinds of inspectors that might need to come out, especially depending on the property. So just the amount of people that you need to come in contact with that you'll never see again or never hear of their names again, but are super, super important to the process. And it is overwhelming. But if you get yourself that realtor that is on top of it and will walk you through it, and we'll just be like, okay, here's the next thing, and here's the next thing, and just is like guiding you through that process, it's, I think, the most important part.
Cool.
And then other than being super, super aware of everything that you're signing and what you're sending, you don't want to fall into some kind of fraudulent trap, because you're not getting that money back. Sorry.
No, you're not getting that money back, unfortunately. I do want to talk about like really quickly, when you're signing paperwork, there's no shame in asking what the hell you're reading. This
Mm-hmm.
is the largest purchase you will ever do. You ask all the questions that you want, even if it sounds dumb. You are entitled to know every single step, and get somebody who's willing, if that's your style. If you're somebody who's like, I'm trustworthy, that's great. Make sure you find somebody who is trustworthy as a realtor, who's going to explain everything for you.
Yeah.
But don't ever feel the need to feel embarrassed. This is a huge purchase, guys, and it doesn't come lightly. And the people around you need to recognize that it is a big purchase and treat you accordingly. But that's about it. 70, do you have any last words?
It's possible, even if you think, oh, it's okay, I'll just rent. I don't know. I 100% think it's worth it. It made us acutely aware of our finances, because we don't have a choice. If you get an apartment and you get evicted, you get evicted. But if we lose our house, we lose our house. It's makes us acutely aware of the budget, and I think everybody can do it. We are not high income earners by any means. If you can get approved for an apartment in California, if you have a good work history and something saved in your bank, you could probably get a house.
Right on. And I think that's a good place to stop it on. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat box. I don't think anything came through, and that's totally fine. But Facebook people, I love you. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Have a good one.